Hello everyone and welcome back to another X-Plane video. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a tutorial today in the Carenado Cessna 152 here on the ramp at Renton, Washington. I'll be doing a startup, run up, a pattern, and then I'll be coming back and landing a full tutorial for you guys. So we'll go ahead and hop in the flight deck. Very simple Cessna 152, fantastic training airplane. So we'll go ahead and run you guys through the checklist and a very basic startup procedure. So we'll go ahead and hide the yoke and bring up our checklist here. So this is the Carenado Cessna 152 with the NH Adrian mod. Highly suggested. I'll leave links down in the description with default Renton scenery. So I'll go ahead and skip force starting engine. So I've already done the pre-flight and everything. That's all completed. Passenger briefing is completed as we have no passengers. Seats and seat belts adjusted and fastened. Doors are closed on the right and on the left. 152 has no cargo or baggage door behind me. Parking brake is set. Radios and electrical equipment are all off. Circuit breakers are in. And fuel shutoff valve is between the seats down here, and it is on. Alright, starting engine checklist. Mixture can go full rich. Carburetor heat's on cold. Primer is as required. It's about 60 degrees out, so I'll give it a couple shots of primer. The fuel sump is at the bottom here, so what we're doing with the primer is sticking the intake stroke, and we have now primed a shot of fuel to go into the carburetor. There's another shot. Alright, 2 shots should be fine. Mixture, or throttle, excuse me, we'll go and open it 1/4 of an inch. Master switch is on, so that's our battery on the right and our alternator on the left. Battery just like you would find in a car. The battery is mainly used for starting, and then the alternator charges the battery for when the engine is running. Beacon can come on. That is the rotating red light up at the top here, which means that the engine is about to start, or the engine has started. Alright, key, we'll go ahead. The key is already in. And we'll go ahead and rotate it to start. We'll go and hop on our brakes here, rotate it to start, and hold till the engine starts. Alright, perfect. So, we'll go and check real quick. We have RPM at about 1200. I'll go and bring it back to about, it normally idles around 700 or 800 RPM. We have oil pressure, and temperature will rise as soon as the engine starts to heat starts to heat up. Generator is on, flaps are up, radio and electrical equipment. We'll go ahead and tune in Unicom frequency, which is 122.8. That's a common reporting frequency for airports that do not have a control tower. Everyone announces on one set frequency, and the one for this airport is 122.8. Alright. We'll go ahead and turn on our transponder, which lets air traffic control know where we are. And we'll go ahead and align our heading bug. So, as we can see, this is the compass up here, and we'll go ahead and align it. So, south is 180, 190, 195. So I'll go ahead and bring it down here and rotate it around. There's 200, 195. Alternatively, you could just click it and then it will do a fast align. Alright, and that is okay. So I believe to stow the checklist, you just click back up here. There it goes. So we'll go ahead and turn on our nav light. And our avionics master is already on. We'll go ahead and release the parking brake and get our yoke back here, and just add in a little bit of power to get the aircraft to roll. So we're here at Renton Municipal Airport, which is about 3 miles just to the northeast of Seattle-Tacoma Airport in Seattle, Washington. We'll be departing for runway 34 today, and the runways are numbered all around the world based on their magnetic heading, but the last digit is not placed, so it's just 2 digits, and it is rounded to the nearest tens, so it's runway 34 because the runway heading is about 340 degrees on the magnetic heading. So we'll go ahead and point our airplane into the wind here, and we'll go and hide the yoke again, pull out our parking brake, and we don't need to hold the brakes now because the parking brake is set so we won't go rolling. We'll go and bring out the checklist again. Alright, engine run-up checklist. Nose wheel is into the wind. That's so that we're not getting crosswind or anything. A crosswind is when the wind is not head-on and it's coming in from the side, which makes landing and taking off harder. It can also change the attitude or the banking of the airplane. Brakes are set. Doors and windows are closed and latched both sides. Elevator trim is set for takeoff. As you can see, this is our little tab here. I can change it with this wheel on my throttle. And there we go, we can see the knob is set for takeoff. Flight instruments are checked. We're at standard pressure, which is barometric pressure in inches of mercury, and the standard is 29.92 inches of mercury. And everything else is set up. We already aligned our HSI to our current heading, and we can double check that via the compass. So we have our RPM gauge up here, which is rotations per minute. Our red line, which is our do not exceed, is 2500 RPM. We'll go and bring it up to 1700. There's 16, and there's 17. So Magnetos left and right. This 150 has, well, and all piston-engined airplanes have this. Airplanes are very redundant, and they have 2 ignition systems. So there's 2 spark plugs in each cylinder, and this is a 4-cylinder engine. So in total, there's 8 spark plugs. So here's our little key down here. So when it says test the Magnetos, that means test one set of spark plugs and the other. So we're running on both spark plugs right now. We'll go and switch it over to the left magneto, which triggers, or which sends the spark out to one set of magnetos. As we can see, we had about a drop of about 100 RPM. We can go back up to both, and then back over to right. And we, again, a good drop. The engine is running smooth. And we'll go back up to both. Carburetor heat. It's pretty complex and it's hard to explain. But generally, a carburetor is what controls the fuel-air mixture, which gets sent to the cylinders and is ignited. And if your carburetor is exposed to liquid and it gets cold, it can freeze, which can freeze the throttle. So we go and check the carburetor heat to see a decrease in RPM as there is less air getting to the engine. We'll go and put it onto cold. Alright, mixture. We'll go and bring it back to lean. The mixture adjusts how much fuel is getting into the engine. As you can see, our RPM drops as we pull out the fuel. We'll go back to rich because we're at sea level. Suction gauge is... where'd you go? It's been a while. Oh, here it is. So that's showing good suction from the engine, which drives a lot of our instruments. Amp meter is good and charging, and instruments are checked. Temperature and pressure is in the green. We'll go ahead and bring the throttle back to idle. Alright, flight controls. We're going to go ahead and make a box with the flight controls. I'll bring the yoke back up so you can see what I'm doing. So, and this is called a yoke. by the way. So yoke goes full forward. We can look back and see our elevators are pushed down. We can look over. We go right, full back, and then left, full forward, and back to center. Flight controls are free and correct. And everything else is set. We'll go and hide the checklist. I'll go and run through what's called a flow checklist. So this is memory items that you should know off the top of your head before you're flying the airplane. And I have kind of a general run that I use for every airplane that I fly. Controls are free and correct. Trim tabs are set. Mags are on both. Mixture's rich. Carburetor heat's on cold. Altimeter's transponder is on, and our lights are set. We just turned on our landing light and our strobe light, which is our lights out the front so we can see at night. And you use those below 10,000 feet. And then our strobe lights are flashing white lights on the end of the wing when you're entering a runway and or flying. So we're taking runway 34. We're going to be doing a standard VFR traffic pattern. As we can see, the altimeter is reading just like a clock. So we're at just about sea level at about 20 feet. So there is a right-hand traffic pattern, and traffic patterns are a triangle. Or excuse me, rectangle. Each leg has a different name, and those are all based off what the wind is. So we can see here's our windsock, and it's reading dead calm, going right down the runway. So on our first leg, it's called upwind. I'll go ahead and pull up the map so we can see here. We're here at Seattle. So we'll take off here, which is our upwind because we're going into the wind. Crosswind, then downwind going south, having the wind behind us. We'll turn base and then turn final on runway 34. So this airplane, very simple to fly. All you have to do for takeoff is just apply a little bit of forward pressure and bring the engine, black knob for throttle all the way up to the top. Alright, takeoff power is set. We have good temperatures and pressures. Our airspeed's alive. We rotate at about 60 knots in this airplane. So we can see that green, yellow, and red gauge. We'll go and pull it back. As we can see, our vertical speed came alive just to the right here. That shows us how many feet we're climbing per minute. And a typical climb rate is actually based on speed to make sure that our wing is the most effective. And that's around 75 knots. So we'll go and pull back to get that speed to come in. I'm waiting for about 500 feet until I start my right-hand turn to crosswind, because we are doing a right-hand traffic pattern. Alright, there's 500 feet. We'll go ahead and start a right 90-degree turn. And we'll go ahead and put our runway heading of 340 off to the left side of this. And we can verify that by looking at the runway. We'll wait till about 900 feet, or in this case 100 feet before 1,000 feet, which is our pattern altitude. Standard VFR or visual flight rules, which is, generally clear. 3 statute miles of visibility and 1,000 feet of clouds. That's a 1,000 foot traffic pattern. 1,000 plus whatever the field elevation is. So I overshot a little bit here. I'll go ahead and start bringing the power back to about 2,300 RPM on the tachometer over there on our co-pilot side. And right about there is about 1,020 feet or so. And as we can see, we got the power pulled back a little bit because I don't want to overshoot, but we're doing around 85 knots. So now we're just flying on the downwind. The wind is at our tail, and we're just coming up a beam, what's called the numbers. So we took off from runway 34, and there we can see it's runway 34. So now that we're abeam the numbers, we'll go ahead and bring our carb heat out so that our carburetor does not get ice, which supplies the fuel air mixture to our engine. We'll go ahead and bring the power back to about 1500 RPM and start a gentle descent. We'll go and bring a 1 notch of flaps in, which, as you can see, there are these tabs that come out on the back of the wing, which changes the airflow over the wing, which helps us to fly slower. So we'll go and start our right base turn now. Just coming up over downtown Renton. There is SeaTac Airport just ahead of us. And we're getting a little bit high here, so we'll go ahead and pull the power all the way up. We'll go 2 notches of flaps, which is just more angle, which helps us slow down faster and be able to fly slower without stalling, or stalling is another word for just losing lift on the wing. We'll go and drop in our final notch of flaps here, rounding out. These 2 white lights that you see on the end of the runway, those are the VASI, vertical attitude situation indicators, I believe. And those are, in this case, 2 red or white lights that help us fly the approach. So 2 white is too high, 2 red is too low. What you're looking for is a right there. 1 red and 1 right. 1 red light. And we're doing about 60 knots here. Alright, our flaps are down, our gear is down. It's a very simple before landing checklist. Lots of checklists in airplanes, very safe. So we're pitching for about 60 here with about 1600 RPM in. We'll go and slowly start bringing that power out and start bringing the yoke back to arrest our descent rate. And we're just keeping our eyes at the end of the runway, holding it off. Beautiful. So since we're actually pretty slow, we can go and take this taxiway. The rudder pedals in airplanes are similar but different from cars. Here, I'll just go ahead and get clear and I'll show you guys. So we're clear of the runway. I'll go ahead and bring my flaps up, turn my strobe and landing lights off. And I'll go ahead and set the parking brake. So the way that the rudder pedals work in all airplanes, from a tiny 152 to a giant Boeing 747, there's 2 rudder pedals. You push right to make the airplane rotate right, and you push on the left one to make the airplane rotate left. And then up top, you push on the top of the rudder pedals with your toes to get brakes. So there's left brake and right brake, which is in turn applying brake pressure to either the right brake or the left brake, and then that rudder is what helps change the angle of our airplane. So I'll go and bring the carb heat in and reset our takeoff trim, and as you can see, my rudder pedals are moving back and forth. I'm putting in right rudder and a little stab of right brake to help pivot the airplane around onto the taxiway. Overcorrected a little bit there. And we'll go ahead and taxi back to the hangar. And I'll go ahead and use a little bit of braking to help us slow down to make this turn. and just shut it down right over here. So the shut off is just as simple as starting the airplane. I'm using a little bit of right brake to again help the airplane rotate around and pivot. Perfect. Alright. So, oops. I'll go ahead and set the parking brake. So our parking brake is set. We'll go and turn off our transponder because we're not flying anymore, so the air traffic controllers don't need to know where we are. Very simple. All we have to do is pull this red knob out because, as I said earlier, the red knob controls the fuel. So we just pull it out. And as we can see, the engine just stops. So we'll go and turn off our beacon and our nav light, and then move our key all the way to the off position, and the keys go up on the dash, and then turn off the master switch. As you can see, everything shut down here. We'll go and open up the door. Alright, and that is a Cessna 152 tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all the views I've been getting recently. Be sure to like and subscribe. Leave me a comment down below where I should fly next. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you next time.